Hey guys, in today's video I'll be talking about the Haas F1 team. They entered the Formula 1 grid in 2016 to try and bring an American interest into the sport. They hired a... Wait, hold on. There was another Haas team that existed before 2016. Not only that, but they had a world champion driving for them. In that case, let me tell you the story of Haas-Lola, the other Haas F1 team, the original Haas F1 team. In the autumn of 1984, IndyCar and NASCAR team owner Carl Haas sowed the seeds for a new F1 team that planned to join the grid in 1985. He negotiated a sponsorship deal with Beatrice Foods, and his new sponsor helped to bring on Ford as their engine supplier, building V6 turbo units to replace the aging Ford Cosworth DFV. Furthermore, they hired ex-McLaren boss Teddy Mayer to help the team set up. They bought a disused factory in Colnbrook, England, and hired experienced designer Neil Oatley and up-and-coming aerodynamicist Ross Brawn. Strangely, the team decided to brand the new chassis as a Haas-Lola, despite the renowned British marque having no affiliation with the team. This team, then, sounded like a well-oiled machine, with competent staff, and manufacturer backing from Ford, and a good driver at the wheel. Who is this good driver, though? The driver in question was hired by the team in 1984, and he had much success already in his career. He was a 1980 Formula 1 World Champion, Alan Jones. The 38-year-old Australian was making a comeback, driving in F1 for the first time since 1983 and doing his first full-time season since 1981. So, in addition to good staff and good connections, the team had a good driver. So you'd assume they'd come to the first race of the season with optimism and perform well. Except that's not what happened. The team's first chassis, the THL1, was still being developed at the start of the 1985 season. So were the Ford engines. The car only became ready for the 12th race of the season in Monza. What makes it even worse is that the Ford engine was still not ready by that point, so they had to shoehorn together a last-minute deal with Hearts to run a 1.5-litre four-cylinder engine in the meantime. Jones qualified a miserable 25th out of 26 cars in Monza, then the engine failed on lap 6 of the race. This project had lots of potential, but was clearly screwed over by unfulfilled demands and promises from all over. The next race was at Spa, but the team was unable to compete because the race had actually been rescheduled from a slot earlier in the season, and since they weren't on the original entry list for the event, they couldn't compete in the rescheduled race. The team would return to the fold at the European Grand Prix at Brands Hatch, a track Jones had won at before. However, his prospects here weren't as high as he qualified 22nd and retired on lap 13 after suffering from radiator damage. Then at the second-to-last race in South Africa, the F1 grid came under fire for still racing under the apartheid regime of the country. Several drivers and diplomats from their respective nations discussed a boycott, however this never came to fruition for the entire grid. Only the French teams of Ligier and Renault boycotted the race after request from the French government. The only driver who didn't start the race after initially qualifying was Jones. He said that in 2017, after a conversation with Bernie Ecclestone about the situation, the Brabham boss suggested he feign illness in order to miss the race and relax the pressure on the team. The pressure came from African-American workers at the Haas company, as they had been calling for a boycott of the race, and so Jones told Teddy Mayer he was ill, and thus he didn't start the race, with the reason for not starting being listed as an illness instead of feigning illness. After the turmoil of South Africa, the season would finish at Jones's home race in Adelaide, and he would qualify 18th before stalling on the grid. He then charged through from the back of the pack to sit in 6th place by the time his electrics gave up after 20 laps. The back end of the 1985 season was just elongated testing really for 1986, where they'd have Ford engines and a second chassis driven by ex-Grand Prix winner Patrick Tambay. The Ford engines were delayed again, however, and they had to revert to the old chassis for the start of the season. Tambay qualified in 13th at the opening round in Brazil, but both he and Jones retired from the race. Then in Spain, Tambay finished the team's first ever race in 8th place, and last of the finishers. Then in Imola, Jones had the new chassis but was out-qualified by Tambay, with the Frenchman in 11th compared to the 21st for the Australian. Tambay received his new chassis in Monaco and qualified 8th before crashing out early in the race. Jones looked set to finish his first race for Haas in Spa, but ran out of fuel with a few laps left. He was still classified in 11th but went one better in Canada, making it to the end in 10th. Tambay was injured in a crash in the warm-up session in Montreal, and Eddie Cheever was signed as his replacement for the next race in Detroit. There were initially talks to bring Mario Andretti back to F1 or bring his son Michael into the team, but these discussions never led to anything. Cheever was running around the points places, but had to retire with a broken wheel peg. Jones also retired with steering problems. Tambay returned for his home race in France, but retired from both that event and the one after at Brands Hatch. Then at the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim, both Haas cars finished a race for the first time ever, with Tombe in 8th and Jones in 9th. Then at the new racetrack in Hungary, the Hungaroring, Tombe qualified in a lofty 6th place and finished 7th just outside the points. The team's steady improvements culminated in a great result at the Austrian Grand Prix. Jones finished 4th, with Tombe 5th, to score 5 points, not only the team's first ever points finish, but also their first ever double points finish. A year after their first ever race, in Monza, Jones secured 6th place and the Haas operation's 6th point of the season. However, after a strong run of form, money started drying up as Beatrice slowly started pulling their funding and they didn't score any more points. At the end of the season, Jones was 12th in the Drivers' Championship on 4 points, while Tombe was 15th with 2. Haas were 8th in the Constructors' Championship after a promising second season. Carl Haas attempted to return for a third season, but Beatrice opted out of sponsoring the team, which left them in a tight spot. Haas shut down their operations in 1986, unable to find another sponsor, and everyone in the team moved on. The factory was sold to Bernie Ecclestone's Brabham team, while Carl Haas and Teddy Mayer returned to the United States. Neil only joined McLaren, while it was the end of Jones and Tombe's F1 careers. Alan Jones would race in the Australian Touring Car Championship and the subsequent V8 Supercar Series until 2002 when he retired aged 56. He came back for a one-off attempt to drive in the Grand Prix Masters Series in 2005, but failed to start the only race of the season in Kyle Army due to a lack of fitness. Tombe raced in the World Sports Car Championship in 1989 and also raced in Grand Prix Masters in both 2005 and 6, aged 56, and passed away in 2022, aged 73. Ross Brawn went on to win championships with Michael Schumacher at Benetton and Ferrari and is one of the most well-respected figures in Formula 1, especially after taking up a role in the FIA in the last few years. The Haas team had everything a good team could want. The only thing they didn't have was luck. They retired from most of the races they started and had only 6 points to show for their results. Had they had more funding and more luck and better support from Ford, they could have easily developed into a solid midfield team and they could have grew American markets in Formula 1. With that being said, I think it's the end of the video. I hope you all enjoyed it. This is part 3 of my Unsung Zeros series, detailing the unsuccessful drivers, teams, and circuits in F1 history, so please tell me in the comments below who or what I should cover next. Please like, comment, and subscribe to this channel for more obscure F1 content. Also, please subscribe to my Patreon and follow my Instagram for behind-the-scenes content and early access to videos before they go live. Anyways, I've been Nedzo, and I'll see you all later. Bye!